Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another From the Vault video. This is a video series that I do where I pull some gun out of my personal collection to show off, and many times these are rare, valuable, or historically significant firearms, or if they're firearms that I've built, they're exact clones, or as close as I can get to an exact clone of, let's say, a gun like a Mark 18 or a Mark 12. However, the gun that I brought out today is none of those things. It's just a fun gun that I assembled. In fact, I call it an inspiration build, where I took an idea, really a what if, and assembled something that I think is kind of cool. Now, I showed this gun off in a number of videos over on the Texas Gun Vault 2, my behind the scenes channel, and many of my subscribers there said, you gotta do a From the Vault video on this because I want to know about the parts list because this thing looks really cool. Now, this gun started off as something completely different. If you've been watching my channel for a long period of time, you may know I did a series when the ATF pistol brace rule was published, and I did an amnesty registration test. I had an AR-15 chambered in 9mm that I have had for some time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to amnesty register this. I'm going to be the guinea pig and find out what happens. And a lot of people said, oh, it's a trap and this and that, but I didn't have any problems. And once it got amnesty registered, I was able to put on a stock. But I wasn't happy with that original build. When I assembled it years and years ago, I used some pretty darn cheap parts. I was just kind of enamored with the idea of having a pistol brace that was kind of like an SBR. But once I got that approval, I wanted to do something different with it. So I took that receiver and the upper and I went in a different direction. I was also kind of forced to do this because when I was at the range with that older gun, I actually had a catastrophic malfunction where I had a projectile get stuck in the barrel. And yeah, let's just say the barrel is no longer with us. So I knew I was going to have to go in a different direction. And so I started thinking, what do I want to do with this? It is now a registered SBR after all. And I really didn't want to change the caliber because I love 9mm sub guns. So I got to thinking, well, what if back in the Vietnam era, during the M16A1 years, in the 1960s, if they wanted to make a 9mm carbine, what would it kind of look like? What would it do? Now, I know Colt has made some 9mm AR-15s throughout the years. I believe their first one was the model 6450 or the 6450, and I believe today they have the 6951 9mm carbine. But those came a little bit later. So what I wanted to do is go back in time and find one of these carbine handguards that's the triangle style. Now, these were never issued an original. These are modern concepts, and I've seen these before. I thought that was really cool to have that triangle handguard in a carbine length. I always thought that just looked really cool, even though the military never issued anything like it. And of course, the guns back in that era would have had a carry handle. Now, this is a detachable carry handle. In that time, it all would have been milled into the upper receiver, but I think the carry handle does give it the right look. And so I changed out a number of parts on it and created what you see here. So let me give you a little close-up of what this gun is. As I said, it is an inspired build. It is not trying to be a true what if where I track down all original parts. It's just a fun gun. Not made from the highest quality parts. I'm not trying to create a clone. It's just something that I think looks really cool and is designed to be really fun to shoot at the range. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera, and I'll go over everything that I did to this rifle, what I put in it, and if you're wanting to build something like this, hopefully give you guys some other ideas. Alright, and here's a close-up of this gun. I just wanted to go over all of the different parts that I put into this. And once again, I know this is not a period correct gun. It's just an inspired what-if gun. It was just kind of something that came out of my mind saying, well, if they were going to make an AR-15 A1 9mm, what would it look like? And that's kind of what I did, but I have upgraded it with a few modern parts. So please don't nitpick it saying, well, that's not period correct, because this is not even a gun that was ever issued. It's not a clone. It's just a what-if inspiration build. And I want to start up here at the front of the gun, and we have a 4-prong 9mm flash hider. And to be very honest with you, I'm not even sure where I bought that. I bought that a long time ago, It's always worked really well, and I've always liked the look of that. The barrel that I put on this build is from Rock River Arms, and when I was going to do this, I started to look for 9mm AR-15 barrels with an A-pillar front sight. And the one thing I discovered is nobody actually makes that except for one company, Rock River Arms. Now, I did have to look how this A-pillar front sight was attached to the barrel, because in order for me to put on this handguard, I was going to have to change the handguard cap. So I was going to have to take off the front sight. And I called Rock River Arms, and this is attached using a dowel pin and not a taper pin. So they were actually really easy to get out, and I had no problem. Now, when it does come to this handguard, this is a triangle style handguard. It looks like an A1. However, they never issued them in carbine length, and this is just kind of a modern rethinking of this. And I've seen these before, and when I was talking on my second channel about building this rifle, one of my subscribers said, hey, I have one of those I never used, I'll send it to you. So they sent me this with that end cap, and that's why I said I had to take off that front sight. When it comes to the Delta ring, this is an A1 style Delta ring that I got from Brownells. It's not an angled one that you see on the modern M4s. The upper receiver I actually got as a Colt stripped upper receiver for 9mm, and you can tell because it has the dust cover, which is kind of cut about 60% through it, and you have the shell deflector, and it does not have a forward assist. I simply bought a removable charging handle to go on the top, so that just gives me the look of that era of the A1s. And that's pretty much the upper receiver. When it comes to the other parts of this gun, I did modernize it with a modern charging handle. This is a BCM gunfighter, so I wasn't going for anything that was period correct. When it comes to the bolt, I bought a CMMG 9mm carrier. Really, this is just the bolt because it's all one piece. And it's the same thing as the Colt. So it's like an exact copy of that, and the bolt is ramped. And I think that's really, really important. Some of the original Colt ones were not ramped, and that caused problems with cycling and damaging the receiver, but they were trying to slow down the action of the bolt. So let me take this upper receiver off, and we'll talk about the lower receiver and the parts that I put in it. Now, one of the most important parts of any 9mm build is going to be the magwell block, and I always go with Han or hand precision ones. I actually believe they supply them to Colt as well. Now, Colt will many times put a rivet or they'll put a roll pin through the receiver to lock them in, but you can buy ones that are permanent or semi-permanent, and I bought the permanent ones, so you do have to take parts out to install this, but this allows you to use the Colt SMG style magazines, which are essentially modified versions of the old Uzi magazines. When it comes to most of the small parts on this lower, they're just standard Colt ones, so they were made by Schmidt Tool. They have all of those markings. The lower receiver itself is an Anderson manufacturing one, so it's just a mil-spec one. I've never had a problem with any of them. I know they're very budget-friendly options, and as I said, when I first started to make this gun years and years and years ago, I just wanted something cheap. But all my Anderson manufacturing lowers have been absolutely fantastic and have always worked really well, so I've never had any issues with that. You will notice I have put on some non-rotating pins on this, and I think for a 9mm build, that is really important, because when this bolt cycles in this gun, it's going to be moving a lot faster than that of a 5.56, and you want to make sure you're not going to egg out the receiver or break those pins, and a lot of the early Colt SMGs or 9mm carbines had that issue. Current Colt 9mm carbines come with stainless steel pins, but I like to use the non-rotating pin ones because I think this actually takes the impact of that hammer a lot better with the faster reciprocating bolt. You'll notice I always put on a A1 grip on A1 style builds, and I got this one from Brownells, so this is a modern one. It has a 6-position buffer tube. A period correct one would have a 2-position buffer tube. This stock is made of polymer. The ones from that era would have been made of aluminum, but this one has that right look. Got that from Brownells as well. Now, something that a lot of people overlook when it comes to 9mm builds is the buffer and the spacer. A lot of people don't know that there's a spacer in this buffer tube as well. The buffers are going to be extra heavy. They're even heavier than, let's say, that of an H3 buffer. Because the bolt is going to be coming back so fast, you want as much mass and weight as possible. So these buffers are extra heavy. You can buy them from, let's say, a company like CMMG or Colt. I believe this is a CMMG one. And it's not marked, but it is definitely a lot heavier. And if I pull out the action spring, you will also notice that there is going to be a spacer in here, if I can get it out. And of course it's stuck. Oh, there it goes. There is the little spacer. And what that does is that it prevents the carrier from coming so far back into the buffer, because with a 9mm cartridge being so much shorter than 5.56, it doesn't have to reciprocate that far back. And the reason you want to prevent that is if it comes back too far, when the bolt slams forward, especially if the bolt catch is up, they were having problems with these bolt catches being sheared off. And that's what that spacer does. It just prevents the bolt from coming back so far and then going forward with so much force. And I think for the most part, that's pretty much what this build is. It's pretty simple, but I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So that's what went into this build. So let me go ahead and put this thing back together, and I'll just tell you a couple more things about it. And so that's what this 9mm A1 Inspired build is all about, and all the parts that went into it. The one thing I want to tell you, that if you've never shot an AR-15 chambered in 9mm, that it might surprise you, because the recoil is going to be very similar to that of 5.56. Although 9mm is a lot less powerful than 5.56, you have a very massive bolt coming back into your shoulder that is heavy, and this is direct blowback with no locking mechanism. And so when you shoot one of these for the first time, you think it's going to be a lot lighter, and it's really not. It kind of surprises you a little bit, but man, oh man, are these things a lot of fun. And I have a few 9mm AR-15s, and this is just one of my favorites to take to the range, because I think this thing looks just absolutely cool. And the A1 styling has honestly just always been my favorite. And I've always liked retro rifles, and although this is not a clone, it's just an inspired build, it just has that right look for me. So one more time, here's a close-up on this gun from the vault, an A1 AR-15 9mm SBR inspired build. Not in any way historically accurate to anything. It's just a concept of what I thought a Colt submachine gun would have looked like back in the early 1960s. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this is a little bit different than the other From the Vault videos that I've done, in that this is not a rare or expensive gun. It's just something that I wanted to build and have some fun with. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Do you guys think this is a cool build? Do you like it? And did I give you guys any ideas? Is this something that you would want to copy yourself? Or do you think I was completely crazy in building something just like this? I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. So, as always, thanks for watching.